welcome into this beautiful Sunday afternoon, which seems to be a little overcast with clouds, and there's a bit of a rain expected. And I'm sure we are all in the overcast in our life where we have clouds of ignorance, clouds of doubts, clouds of envy, all the Arshad workers, and we always keep praying and waiting for the sunshine. Pierce, can I request the mic to be muted, please? Yeah, sorry. Just give me a minute. I think she got disconnected by mistake. Okay. So we are all waiting for that moment of sunshine, by His grace, which will pierce through the clouds of all the ignorance that we have accumulated, just as this weather tells us, and then receive the complete divine light to understand and enlighten us. Brothers and sisters, let's move on with this Sunday morning with a bi-weekly Sai vaccine, a gentle but a very strong and a firm reminder that we set down on these Sundays to tune in to the voice of God. Yeah, tune in so that we remain immune in. And what does the voice, God's voice sound as? As Sant Rumi said, silence is the only language of divinity. Silence is the only language of divinity, and rest else, everything is a poor translation. Right? And where do we get that silence? Definitely not in the outer world where we are existing right now. It's something that we have to go within, deeply within. Maybe in those moments of sparks of those connection that we get, we have tuned in into the right frequency. And brothers and sisters, we'll talk a little bit more about it because we are on the same, chapter that we started a few weeks back on destiny and karma and destiny. How do we face it? Can we overcome it? Can we redefine it? Can we refine it? And so on and so forth. So just as we set into this journey, remember on Sundays or whenever we try to get into this satsang, when we try to get into the company of God, even Swami is waiting for that selfie moment. Just as we are busy in the world to take selfies with the world, it's a moment that we take the selfie with the Sai, right? And that's a true selfie. As we reach out to him unknowingly, there is a fact that he is already waiting for us. It's like the sunshine which shines in the morning, and the moment we open our windows, we receive it. It's not that it just sunrise happened that time. It's the same way, brothers and sisters, when we open our windows of heart, when we start looking him within, we understand that he was always waiting there, right? And what can be a better mode of doing that and reaching that, which is satsang, a continuous communion and communication with God. And one of these sessions or several such, as you see in the Radio Sai platform, in several YouTubes and the books that you read, everything, every thought that you possess for Bhagavan forms a part of the satsang that we relentlessly endeavor into. So what do we have for today? Okay. Once again, a very pertinent reminder, who am I is a journey, because the whole gambit that we have spoken about of Satsai Seva organization, or being a Sai devotee, or being a, being a Christian, or being a good Muslim or a good Hindu, whatever it is, unless we have realized we are the images which have been created in the same image of the divine, unless we are a spark of the same, there's no point. So we started the journey with Koham, thinking that, am I the body as we grew up? Am I the mind? Am I the senses that we have been endowed with? Or am I the intellect? We started identifying ourselves by these faculties at different point of time differently, not knowing that we are scattering our vision, right? We are blurring our vision. And then from this journey of Koham, Bhagavan says, in this Koham prior to marriage, who was wife, who was children, right? Wife, children, and friends are like passing clouds, as Bhagavan says. They all have come along the way. As we take a journey, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, we have a lot of passengers who come in, who meet us, and then they get down at the station. Similarly, all of these entities that we have created came with a certain destined, ordained path, met up those required tasks, and they get off. We have forgotten the divinity. That is the biggest foolishness in humanity today. And Bhagavan says, Once you inquire, you will realize that the body, mind, intellect, senses are just mere instruments that have been given to us. The instruments that we have thought and made it as a master out of it. Right? So we have to bring it back to the stage. And that's where Bhagwan took a massive evaluation exercise where everything of the creation was paramount and the man was, brought down. He reevaluated and repositioned man to be the highest form of the creation. Jantu nam nara janma durlabham. He made us understand that this is one of the golden opportunities that after several species of evolution, we have been bestowed with this human birth to understand, to receive, to love God more and more and reach him finally, right? So the whole journey started from Koham has to end in Soham. That is, who am I to I am he, correct? It can be different ways of reaching it. There are various margas. It depends on individual spiritual appetite and the spiritual muscles that we have and what we feel favorable about. Either we use Jnana Marga or we use Bhakti Marga or we use Karma Marga. And remember that even though you use Jnana Marga, you are still doing the Bhakti and the Karma Marga. Even though you use Karma Marga like Sevadal, it's not that the Sevadal who is doing Karma is not doing a Bhakti or not knowing God. Every of them is interlinked. And all these three margas are interlinked. In fact, Bhagwan once in his session with the students, he wanted to explain that when somebody asked him which is the best marga, and he says he created a Mysore Pak. And he said, now when you eat this Mysore Pak, what does Mysore Pak has? It has got form, right? It has got shape. It has got weight, right? So form, shape, weight, form, and taste. So he's saying when you eat a small bit of it, is it that you have only taken the sweetness of the pak or you have also taken the form and the weight? You have also taken that off. So similarly, Swami says that whenever you do a spiritual task, anything which is ordained with love for God, it has all the attributes of jnana, bhakti, and karma. It's only that it's like an auto rickshaw where you have three wheels. One of the wheel is in the front while the two wheels is the rear, right? So let's say the three wheels are jnana marga, bhakti marga, and karma marga. At some point of time, when you are too much engaged in the seva, your front wheel becomes the karma marga, whereas the jnana and bhakti still remains there. And that's how the auto moves. And at some point of time, evening time, when there is a satsang session or there is a meditation session, you sit down, you start meditating, your jnana marga comes in the front. Right? And when you get into Rama Smarana, you do all that chanting, your Bhakti Marg becomes the front wheel. So all the three wheels are important. They coexist, brothers and sisters. They are not diverse or diverse from each other. So whenever we are trying to reach by any of the ways to reach Bhagwan, to reach Soham, any of the path, as long as it brings us closer. Bhagwan says, when somebody asks about meditation, Bhagwan says, what is the meaning and what is the use of meditation? Meditation, have you become more loving towards other? Have you started forgiving more? Have you started trying to see Bhagwan in that individual? If you have not done this, it's a total waste of time and a photo session. So, brothers and sisters, it is important for us to understand how beautifully our Lord, the most democratic Lord who came down in earth, and I think I don't know, we are too small and too limited in our understanding to even fathom God. But whatever we have seen and heard about Lord Rama, Krishna, and all the avatars who bless this planet, Bhagwan has been unique in his teachings. He says here, the wicked will not be destroyed. They will be corrected. Correct? They will be transformed. They will be reformed. And I was listening to one of the Radio Sai, one of the experience interviews. In that, this is remarkable, brother. You must listen. I hope you have heard that. There's a brother who is explaining about an incident, I think way back in 70s. And he met this guy, who's a Sai devotee now, who's an active worker and he's leading a lot of Swami's projects. This man, in those days in 70s, was not a Sai devotee. And he was a communist by nature, a very staunch communist. And in that time, there were 12 of them. I mean, their whole, body, whatever you call political or social body, they decided that enough, India is getting misguided by some of the gurus and we must finish them. So there were 12 guys who decided to go and, kill 12 of these gurus or the masters that was trying to propagate dharma or religion or whatever way they felt is not being correct. And this particular man was assigned to go and attack and kill Satya Sai Baba, our Swami, right? So, cutting the long story short, when he came, he was there in Puttaparthi for some days, and then finally he came. He was called in the interview, in the seva, in the inner sense. So he was just looking at the right opportunity, and then he was called in the seva. Now he is already having a lot of aversion, and then he came into the interview room with a knife. He managed to escape that knife with others. He came and sat there and then Bhagwan was talking to him, and he was not liking, the approach or the extra love or whatever. And then suddenly Bhagwan says, so you have come for something, just do it. Now he's taken aback, right? So then he starts looking for the knife. And Bhagwan, in his own inimitable style, he brings out that weapon, the knife. He says, you are looking for this? Here it is. And it was not in his pocket, it was in Bhagwan's hand. Brothers and sisters, when this happened, there's a huge avalanche of transformation of emotion which went through him, his being. And then he realized that what am I doing? This is divinity itself. He surrendered. And then went on to become one of the greatest proponent. He's still doing that. So the point here is what Bhagwan said. This avatar has not come to destroy. This avatar has not come to kill. It has come to reform. Brothers and sisters, that's most important. We all have chance, despite the deviations we make in life, we have a chance to correct. The ever-loving Bhagwan is ever ready to bless us with his love and grace, provided we have to become unmukh. It's like when you're walking in the sun, if you are not facing the sun, your back is facing the sun, the shadow is in front of you, it's like a Maya in front of you, the world is in front of you, the illusion is in front of you, get involved in that. What we need to do to get into the shadow, brothers and sisters, is turn towards sun. The moment you turn towards sun, your shadow falls back. That is, when you are looking towards the master, heading towards the master, or walking on his told, messages, your shadow, your Maya, your world gets behind you, start getting disconnecting. And when that master comes right top on your being, that is when the sun comes on top of you, there's no shadow at all, brothers and sisters. That's a moment of a divine moment of unison. All right. So that was important for me to touch, as I remembered that here this avatar is to reform and not to destroy. Move on. Let's move on. So yeah, so this was our basically persistent topic, which is coming in me or God, who controls the destiny and whose will it is. There's a tug of war which is going on, my will or his will. Sometimes when it goes everything right, it was my will. When things go wrong, it is his will. Is it so? And we have seen enough of this to understand that definitely we are the architects of our destiny, right? But somehow there there is a possibility. Let me see whether we are into this. Okay, so this was the photograph that we had represented, how this in this representation Bhagwan clearly explained by this graphic mirage that a cow is tied up with a rope and a limitation is she cannot move beyond a certain point, right? So what is karma? Karma is grazing of the grass that the cow does. How much she can graze is the circumference she can take is with the rope. Now that rope length is the fate of the destiny. And the free will is to grace, right? Now if Bhagwan out of his grace wipes out our karmas, or he tries and thinks, okay, I'll extend the rope, that is called, grace, whereby your destiny gets modified. All right. So this is something which we were debating on. How do we overcome this thing called destiny? There is an overdraft facility, as a divine banker concept. Bhagavan has explained in 1967 or 68, the theme on which Singapore devotees did a drama. He defines that there is an overdraft facility, just as the bank does it. God's special grace on us. Now, before he consents that special grace, before he modifies your fate, before he, realigns destiny, what is important the bank does for overdraft is checks your account, checks your, submission of the payments on time and things like that. Then Bhagavan says, when you offer a prayer, God considers if you have done anything worthwhile for the prayer to be sanctioned. Once a devotee asked Bhagwan that, Swami, is it necessary for us to pray for everything we need from you? Swami said, yes, you have to pray for what you need, but I will decide what I am going to give you. Prayer is your purushartha, is your job to do, right? I will first see if you have done anything in your previous birth. Then you spoke about, Krishna and Draupadi, when Krishna was, trying to cut sugar cane, and there was a knife which cut his fingers, and he was looking for a bandage, how to do it. While everybody was running around to get some cloth, Draupadi, who was there, immediately tore her sari and put it around the finger. So when she cried years down the lane, in that Hastinapur, when she was being disrobed and she cried out, then the prayer, the shrieking prayer, yearning went to the Lord, and the Lord reversed the accounts and checked, yes, she has done this once when my finger was cut. So the account was checked, and she was given that overdraft facility by unending meters and meters of sari to cover her modesty. Brother and sister, this tells us that yes, there is a possibility of that overdraft in some cases. And how and when, we are going to see a little more on that. All right. So can destiny be overcome? Can destiny be overcome? We are all interested sitting here. Unless we have an interest, unless we have love, unless we have affection, we won't be sitting here with Bhagwan, right? So the topic that we have been discussing is destiny, and can destiny be overcome is definitely something which interests all of us, right? We are all hammered and tongs by various vicissitudes in life. And then we attribute it to karma, to destiny. That's an easy scapegoat mechanism. And by saying that, we disconnect ourselves, said we are not the architect of this. No, we are. But having come to the fact that we are, can we overcome this? Let's see. We discussed a little bit about law of attraction, right? And it's just like a radio transmitter. Let me talk this way. There are certain things which are very natural, which cannot be changed, like law of gravity. Sir Isaac Newton invented it, yes. But it's also that the law of gravity existed before he invented, and even after that, there's nothing which has changed. So it is unchangeable truth, right? Suppose you put your hand in the fire, you get burnt. This is unchangeable fact. Similarly, like this, there are many of them, and one of them very important is the frequency that we tune in. Let's say you're playing a frequency on a radio. There are choice of songs that you have. Some people like listening to the sad songs, melancholic and, very sober ones. Some people like the party songs, right? And it is something similar to this, that if we are tuning to that particular frequency, brothers and sisters, for a party song, we get a party song, right? The outcome of the song on your being is a different matter. It doesn't matter. We have chosen to tune in, right? And now, let's say we don't want the sad song, we want the happy song, or we want a wedding song, or whatever song, which is of a different mood. Now, when you have tuned to the new song, your transistor plays the new song, but remember, the frequency, the vibration still exists in that atmosphere. Okay, those wavelengths are still there. The sad wavelengths are still there, but it will not reach you because you have tuned into a different frequency of a happy song. Similarly, when we are trying to tune in our thoughts, our processes, by staying gloomy, by staying in grief, by staying in complaining mode, non-repentance mode, brothers and sisters, we are tuning to that from the energy clouds that exist. We are tapping it from the whole universe. All right. And when we are tuning in to a happy song, sad songs, even though they exist, they will not catch your frequency because you have chosen not to. This is a very important thing that we started off last week. And this tells us that we choose to become what we are. All right. Now, going a little bit on the scientific side, why we are talking about it, measurements of the human energy field was done by a Sputnik sensor. There has been some research done. If you recall, Frank Baranowski, he did an experiment basis the auras, right? We all remember that. He measured the auras all around the world of thousands of people. Then finally, when he went to Puttaparthi, okay, and then he saw Swami, The aura was normal aura, he says, is 2 to 3 feet. And when he saw Swami, it was crossing even 40 feet on a particular day. And then it went on the next day when he was on the, on the terrace of that Prashanti Mandir, old Prashanti Mandir, he saw it unending. Blue aura. Blue aura is a spiritual field. Pink aura is of love. So what this guy, there's a Russian scientist, Konstantin, he further worked on the Kirlian principle, and he has designed something called BioCell Sputnik sensors. Now, what are these sensors? These sensors are basically, they are talking about they are photocells, by the way, they are photosons. They are measuring the capacitance of the energy fields of the human, which is exuding out of your the vibrating frequency that you are in, the emotional frequency, the thought frequency that you are in. And that conductivity this sensor is catching and then translating into the graphs, which tells you on the peaks and the troughs and on the widening of the frequency or the low, narrowing it down to tell you on what kind of state of being you are in. Okay. And this Konstantin, he has done a lot of research. He went into miners. He went into a place where there was natural calamity. He went into temple. He did a lot of experiment, as we have heard earlier and spoken earlier about, Japanese scientist Emoto-san, who did a water experiment. And then he measured the molecules of the water, right? We'll not get into that. Now, this is interesting because this recent Sputnik sensor, which is an advanced method of the Kirlian photography, it has measured auras. Let's say before you are into a meditative mode, or you're in chanting mode, or you're in a good mode or a happy mode, before you can see the auras like this, which is disconnected and broken, and after you can see the auras like this. And in a way, it is also projecting the alignment of the chakras, which is misaligned from your, from your spine. All right. So at the same time, it is giving us that where do we lie spiritually? Though it is scientific, it's telling us thoughtfully where do we lie, emotionally where do we lie. It's important, brothers and sisters, to understand by this scientific correlation that whatever we are emitting is happening. The impact of mass Rudram. Now there is Dr. Atul Kulkarni who measured this, and brother Amey Deshpande, he happened to narrate it. It's a 2-minute video. I'll play that out. But what he measured with his Sputnik sensor was the vibration level in Sai Kulwant Hall with the Sputnik sensor. Let's hear it out. If you don't get the volume, please let me know.
On the occasion of the National Sadhana Conference, which happened in November during Swami's birthday celebrations, a very interesting presentation was made by one Dr. Avinash Kulkarni, and he presented the scientific impact, or he conducted a scientific study of this mass chanting, and it's a pretty brilliant a study that he has done. He continues to do these kind of studies. During the presentation, he said that in 2017, during the mass chanting, he had actually studied the energy levels. So there is a particular antenna which is called the BioWell antenna, and that this particular antenna can actually measure the energy levels. And so it's a fairly scientific equipment which is available. You can buy, you can study it. And so using this particular antenna, which is supposed to be more than 500 times more powerful than the Kirlian photography. You must have heard about the Kirlian photography, which can actually measure the aura around the body. And so this is now a very advanced machine, and using this he had studied the energy levels, and he found that as the Omkaram started and right up to Om Shanti Shanti during the mass chanting, he actually showed the graph of how the energy levels in Kulwant Hall consistently kept rising and reached a crescendo. And he made one more startling revelation. He said that usually, the joules is the way you can measure energy. And he said that while in any other place, the natural energy of that place will be roughly about 1 joule, which is like supposed to be the standard. In Kulwant Hall at any given time, the energy level is 3 joules, which is 3 times more powerful than any other place.
Wow.
And so imagine doing Rudram chanting in the Kulwant hall. He said that in his lifetime he had not seen this kind of a observation where it had reached pretty, an crescendo, and it had reached a climactic level of energy. So that is, even scientifically, we can today understand the impact that Rudram creates on, especially when done in mass chanting.
So there you go. It's important to understand that what is the energy field changing for? It's not happening instantaneously. It's the vibration that the devotee is sitting there, or when you make your home or your heart a Prashanti Nilayam, or the place that you exist, you try to be positive. You you release that energy. And even if it is measured, it will be closer to higher than the reference point. It's important, brothers and sisters, to understand we impact the surroundings. And then we take that back again into a system. So there's kind of a cycle, there's kind of a correlation which is always there between Vyashti, Sameshti, and Parameshti, as Bhagavan used to say. Vyashti is individual, Sameshti is society, and then it is Parameshti, which is universe, which is God. Everything is interlinked. So you can imagine our role, our conscious role and responsibility in contributing towards the positivity in the world is so immense, especially in these COVID times when things have drowned people into negativity. Let Sai devotees, being a true Sai devotee, be always positive, no matter what hardships and turnarounds have happened in our places, brothers and sisters. We can define that, correct? Now let's move on. Having said about this, what was also a part of the revelation from Mr. Constantine experience was thoughts are particles of light which can be measured. Okay, that's why he used the photo cells. It's a photo measurement, right? When they get broadcasted, when the human beings think collectively, you can see this particular wave which is connecting everyone. When you think collectively, they create a powerful energy field by thinking, chanting, and coming together. Look at the dynamics of a group. Look at the impact of the group dynamics. When you come together, like satsang, like bhajan, like Nagar Sankirtan, like seva, what we do, brothers and sisters, imagine the impact we are making to the surroundings. Imagine the impact we are making to ourselves. And that is why it's like the highway where you are driving alone. Suppose you are driving alone and your car lights goes off, your brothers and sisters, you don't know how to move ahead because you don't know what's lying ahead because your lights have gone off. But when you have lot of cars going in the highway, even if your light is off, you can still see the path in the highway. Correct? And what is that? That is nothing but group dynamics. When you are doing prayer, that is why when you go to Sai Center, when you go to Sai Kulwant Hall, when you go to places of higher positivity, what you do is you're basically elevating your energy levels, your being level, your existence level, your vibration levels, so that you can vibrate positively. And then distance does not matter, brothers and sisters, in this case, because if thoughts is impacting, if your emotion is impacting the environment, do you think you're bound by distance? No, we are not bound by distance. That's why a mother's prayer, a parent's prayer for a child who is thousands of miles apart still gets impacted. Why? Because you have already released those positive vibrations, your love, your affection, so that the nature reorients something for you. It's important to understand. And these are basically measurements which were done before and after, those things where it showed the realignment of the chakras and the energy fields which was outside, which was having gaps, not having it. So it's a very powerful experiment. I've seen it. It's about 2 hours video which was there some time back. And there are various things which is not, okay, it's a part of experiment and all. But most important thing, I've tried to pluck it out from the video and put it for us to understand that you look at this, energy level increases. There is an energy level which is existing all around us. Let us understand that. Let us resonate with the right frequency so that we can tap in the right energy cloud, the right vibration level for us to vibrate. Okay. Be the energy that you want to attract. As Einstein said, the famous scientist that we all adore and know, everything is energy and that's all there it is. Match the frequency of the reality you want and you cannot help but get it. Match the frequency of the reality that you want. You can't help but get it. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy. This is physics. He's talking scientifically, saying that we are releasing and we are getting it, right? It's important. Otherwise, how can some of the people, there were experiments done where they found that different people at different geolocations came out with certain inventions which were common at around same point of time. So they were tapping into some energy fields at the same time, which we may call as Akashic records or whatever you can see it. But these things exist. That's what we spoke when Brother Tigrit was taken onto the astral travel by Swami and Auntie Phyllis Crystal. They were taken, these two were taken by Swami into the astral travel, the astral body travel, and Swami showed them the energy clouds, positive, negative, black, pink, and told them this is why it is, this is where it is. Because we have created that. We are the creators of those kind of energy levels, right? So by thought, we can either raise ourselves and connect with the powerhouse of the universe, or cut ourselves completely from this divine inflow. What do we want to tap, positive or negative? It lies completely in our hands, brothers and sisters. It's an important thing for us to brood. It's not one session. Brothers and sisters, please take it to your mind and heart that understand the impact that you are making. Don't make yourself the minuscule representation in this universe. You are a huge contributor to the planet. If you move with that sense of responsibility and realization, I'm sure you will. Let's look into this video, why this works and how it works. And then possibly we'll come back onto this afterward.
There was a secret law that governs the workings of the universe. Continuing her research, Fern realized that poets like Ralph Waldo Emerson and William Blake, and philosophers like Goethe and Plato, as well as all the major religions, referenced one powerful law, the law of attraction. In fact, this law is the most powerful one in the universe. The law of attraction states that what you put out into the universe is what you'll receive in return. So if you're full of frustration, anger, and other negative thoughts and emotions, according to the law of attraction, you will only receive more bad things to be angry and frustrated about. Conversely, if you're sending love, gratitude, and praise out into the universe, positive things will come your way. Whatever you tend to think and feel is what you'll attract to yourself. Furthermore, this secret, the law of attraction, is affecting your life right now. You can measure how much negativity or positivity you're releasing into the universe by reflecting on your current state. What occupies your mind the most will influence your state of being. If you're spending the majority of your time thinking about things that make you angry, sad, or disappointed, these thoughts will come to define your life. For example, if you spend most of your day worrying about debt, you're pretty much guaranteed to stay in debt. The good news, however, is that you have the power to change it, and you can start right now. The law of attraction doesn't listen to don'ts, but to the principles of quantum mechanics. The main reason that people aren't benefiting from the secret to life is this: they're focusing mainly on what they don't want instead of what they do want. But the law of attraction doesn't comprehend don'ts. If you spend most of your day preoccupied with the thought, "I don't want to fail the exam," the message you're actually sending to the universe is, "I want to fail the exam," since don'ts aren't recognized. Therefore, to change your current state, the message you send out has to be positive. You need to tell the universe what you do want, like, "I want to pass the exam," or "I want to live debt-free," for example. The more exact you are in what you want, the better. "I want to live debt-free by the end of the year." The same ideology can be applied to larger phenomena in the world. Instead of anti-war protests, there should be more pro-peace rallies. We need to start thinking about what we want, not what we don't want. There are 3 steps to creating the universe you want to live in. Your thoughts are like a TV transmission tower, constantly broadcasting your requests out into the universe. So if you don't like what you're receiving, you need to change the frequency. Or, put another way, your thoughts are like seeds. The more positive thoughts you plant, the more positive your life will grow. In both scenarios, the message is the same. You are the creator of your universe. Many ailments derive from stress, which in turn is caused by negative thinking. So you can greatly improve your well-being by changing the way you think. When a person really believes their body can cure itself, that belief becomes a reality, demonstrating the scientifically proven placebo effect. Another scientific fact of the human psyche is that the body is constantly cleaning out old cells and replacing them with new ones. Every 3 years, you essentially have a new body. Remember this fact and recognize that the only thing keeping an illness around is that you continue to hold it in your thoughts. Imagine there's a force in the universe that's responsible for creating the world we live in. It has always been there and always will be. Similar language is often used to talk about God or to talk about energy. But choosing a specific name for this force is less important than realizing that it exists and understanding your relation to it. The secret to life is to recognize yourself as one with the universe, and that you're an energy field acting inside a larger energy field, where the goal is to be in harmony and not in competition. This is what the secret is all about. Remember, you have complete control over your thoughts, and thus complete control over what comes your way. No one else can create your universe for you. Sometimes it might feel like your past is controlling your future, whether through regrets over a wrong choice you made or trauma from an unpleasant experience. But if you keep true to the secret and focus only on what you want, the grip of the past will gradually loosen, and you'll realize that you control your fate. The book's main takeaway is that the secret to life is found in the universal law of attraction. If you send out good thoughts and intentions to the universe will give you good things in return.
You will not receive
భావం
love.
తద్భవతి.
As is your feeling, so will be your experience.
కనుకనే నీ యొక్క చెడ్డ భావములే నీకు ఆ రియాక్షన్, రీసౌండ్ అండ్ రిఫ్లెక్షన్ గా వస్తున్నాయి.
It's only your bad thought that comes back to you in the form of reaction, reflection and resound.
ఇది ఏమాత్రము జీవుల్లోటి చెడ్డ గుణములు కాదు.
Never give any scope for such things.
నీ యందున్నటువంటి చెడ్డ గుణములే.
In fact, all qualities are in you.
కేవలం నీ యొక్క జీవులపైన నిరూపించి వాటిని నీవు హింసిస్తున్నావు.
You attribute these things to other beings and blame them.
ఎలాంటి వారినైనా సరే నీకు దుర్మార్గంగా వచ్చే వారిని నీవు ప్రేమించు.
Let him be anyone, good or bad, you should continue to love.
దేహంలో ఉండినటువంటి యొక్క సమస్తమైనటువంటి యొక్క అంగములకును సన్నిహిత సంబంధ బాంధవ్యం ఉంటుండాలి.
There is intimate relationship between different organs of the body.
దేహంలో ఉండినటువంటి ఐకమత్యము మరి ఏ ఒక్క దీనిలో కూడా మనకు కనిపించదు.
The unity present in the body is present nowhere else.
దీనికి నీ మనసుకు కూడాను మరింత సన్నిహిత సంబంధ బాంధవ్యం ఉంటుండాలి.
There is much more intimate relationship between the body and the mind.
కనుక మనోదేహముల యొక్క ప్రభావాన్ని మానవుడు మొట్టమొదటగా గుర్తించాలి.
Man must realize the effect of the relationship between the body and the mind.
మనసు యొక్క ప్రభావం కూడాను ఆరోగ్యం పైన అమితంగా ఉంటుంటాది.
The thinking faculty of the mind has got effect on the body.
కేవలం దేహం పైన మాత్రమే కాదు, జగత్తు పైన కూడాను మన ప్రభావం చాలా అధికంగా ఉంటుండాలి.
The effects of the mind, they not merely reflect on the body but on the
అందువలన
world.
వేదాంత ప్రబోధయందు మనోమూలం మిదం జగత్.
That's why in Vedantic parlance it is said, the entire world is of your own mind.
చిత్తశుద్ధే జ్ఞానసిద్ధి.
The purity of heart, chitta shuddhi, will confer jnana siddhi, the acquisition of wisdom.
చిత్తం శుద్ధిగా ఉండినప్పుడే జ్ఞానం కూడా మనకు శుద్ధిగా అందుతుంది.
When once there is purity, you'll have wisdom.
ప్యూరిటీ ఆఫ్ మైండ్.
The purity of the mind.
కనుక నీ ప్యూరిటీగా పెట్టుకో.
Therefore, keep the mind pure.
ఎప్పుడు కూడా ఎలాంటి చెడ్డ భావాలు వచ్చినప్పటికీ నాట్ గుడ్, నాట్ గుడ్, నాట్ గుడ్, ఇట్ ఇస్ నాట్ మైండ్.
Whenever there is a chance of bad thoughts coming in, always feel this is not good, this is not good for me, brush it aside.
ఇవన్నీ కూడా నువ్వు నా సొత్తులు కాదు,
They don't belong to me.
ఇవన్నీ నా ప్రాపర్టీలు కాదు.
These bad thoughts don't belong to me, not my property.
మై ప్రాపర్టీ అనేటువంటి గుడ్ థాట్స్, గుడ్ ఐడియాస్.
Good thoughts, good ideas constitute your property.
లవ్ 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 లవ్.
The love is the biggest property.
లవ్ ఈజ్ గాడ్.
Love is God.
లివ్ ఇన్ లవ్.
Live in love.
All right. You couldn't have had a better way of understanding the whole thing, as Swami put it as Yad Bhavam Tad Bhavit. The whole universe becomes as you think, as you feel. Brothers and sisters, it's important for us to understand God is there, His will is there. He is always there blessing us. Depends on what we are asking. If we are tuning to a frequency negative, His job is to say, Tathastu, so be it. Suppose you ask somebody, how are you doing? oh, I'm not doing so good, tough times and all. The moment you say tathastu, it happens. When you ask somebody, how is it going in the office? What was the, appraisal? No, this boss is very, slimy. He is different on the face. The moment you say and feel and you start vibrating in that level, you are transmitting that tathastu. It comes back to you over and over again. Oh, I have been born in this country, so poor and so many problems. Tathastu. We have to understand that he is blessing us for what we are asking and we are transmitting, brothers and sisters. Let us be positive despite everything. Let us think and feel and be happy. And that's what Swami says. Whenever people used to wish him happy birthday, he said, my birthday is, that day when everybody is happy. So it's you for us to be happy, right? So the only thing we can offer to him and to the universe is happiness, positivity, being always ready to help and have what Bhagwan said, love is God, live in love. With that, brothers and sisters, I think we will we are already on 11:20. We would like to end here. I'll continue with this. I think there are a couple of more sessions we're going to have to finally close this. But important takeaways here. It's important that we are responsible for everything that not only happens in our lives, but also the environment that we create for things to happen in somebody else's life. We influence somebody by our positive or negative thinking, right? And so we have to be very careful. We have to be positive, all right, to move in this direction. With this, let me get Brother Shastri back. We bring the presentation session to an end right now. And Brother Shastri, if you can come on and if you have something further to add on this, is fine. Otherwise, you can go ahead with your 101 of the 108 names, Mark. Sairam.
Sairam, brother, I think the last video clipping was so excellent, and in fact, bringing the science and spirituality together. And I think Swami has always, emphasized on the 3 R's. So so the reaction, reflection, and resound. And obviously, each one of us are radiators and transmitters for sure, whether positive or negative, and so our effort has to be only for radiating the positive energy. And it's wonderfully done today. And so you are making of your own destiny. That's it. There is nothing else. So each one of us, the way we go through, either you suffer, you enjoy, so whatever it is. So today I have this Om Sri Sai Apan Nivarane Namaha. One of the 108 names, I think it's 104. I think all of us must have heard about Dr. Gadia, one of the ardent devotees of Swami. He was giving series of lectures in UK. And one of the churches, when he delivered the lecture about Swami, one of the devotees, from the gathering, the assembling people, so some lady approached Dr. Gadia and said, my husband is, calling for you. He wants to meet you. So would you have some time to meet him? So he goes there. They don't know each other at all. So he visits, because he was suffering. He was bedridden kind of thing. He already had an operation, heart operation. So he said that he wanted to meet Dr. Gadia. So the wife took him to his house, and their house. The moment he saw Dr. Gadia, he said, hello, my brother, please, I think you are my brother in the previous life, and you would also be my brother in the future life. And then they hugged each other in ecstasy and happiness. And Dr. Gadia was putting together that all of us are children of Swami, so obviously we are all brothers and sisters. And so moment they hugged each other, unfortunately, this elderly person whom he hugged already had a pacemaker in the heart.
Okay.
So the pacemaker broke into pieces, and within no time, the face turned blue. And Dr. Gadia was just had no words, and he visited the person for the first time. And him being a doctor, he knows that the thing is going out of control, the situation. So then he, prayed to Swami from his heart. That's the power of prayer, the energy. That immediately the Swami's message for him. There are two people I've heard. One is Indra Devi, and then Dr. Gadia were given with that power of connecting to Swami instantaneously when it is required. And Swami had granted them. And Swami, immediately put a message to him saying that put vibhuti in his mouth and use vibhuti and write Om on his heart. He did both. He put the vibhuti and he threw Om, a symbol, on his heart, and in no time he got up and he just said that yes, I have seen my brother today again, and a song, Sai is God. He just started getting up and saying that Sai is God. So, how Swami works, if our thoughts are positive and it's connected 100% full to Him, with no other than, and obviously is there to help us to get us out of any situation. So that's where it is Apan Nivarine Namaha. Jai Sai Ram.
Beautiful. And just to link what you said about this, yesterday I was listening to one of the science students, I think Ajnish or Anish. He was talking about he was in Puttaparthi campus and his father was in Vrindavan. Okay. And that was decided by Swami that he will study and his father will be there. But every Sunday his father used to visit, like, to meet children. Now it so happened in that particular Sunday, his father did not come. So this boy it was those days when mobiles and all were there. So this boy was very anxious about it, that how he could not come, why he did not come, things Sunday. And it was without fail that his father used to always come. And just as he was sinking into that feeling, that evening, a devotee, I mean, one of the professors who was in Vrindavan, he happened to visit him. And then he came and he said, Anish, so first he asked, where is my father? Why he didn't come? Because he knew father knew him. And that professor says, Anish, I'm sorry to say, but your father left. He said that, and Anish says that minutes of silence without a word was loaded with so much of grief and pain, because he could not express nothing before he can ask. And he was down. Of course, he was not in a state to combat and ask Swami why and all that, but he was down and, thinking that how is it going to happen to me and things, how is it going to work? And then the professor continued and said that he was dead, but Swami brought him back into life. And then he talks about it. In the Ramesh Hall, what happened on that Sunday, his father was sitting in the rows where devotees are or the students, parents are, and they were sitting there. And Bhagwan was on the dais, and then bhajans was going on. Suddenly his father felt a heavy chest pain. So he told the guy in the front, can I rest my head on you? Because I'm feeling. So he said, no problem, uncle. And while Swami is sitting there, rested. And rested so that he never got up. Okay, body turned cold. And as the session was getting over, one of the devotees or professors went to Swami and said that. Swami said, is it so? Then Swami walks to the place where his body was laid up. He says, no, he has something to do. Gets the water. In front of all this is happening, sprinkles onto this man. Get up is the command, divine command given. And the man gets up. And he's alive till date, brothers and sisters. Imagine. He's the creator. He's just giving us a chance to improve ourselves. Otherwise, he can do it. In one of the videos, he says that jaisa chapati ko aisa palatta hai na, just as you turn a chapati, I can turn the world upside down. Then he says, but mere system mein nahi hai. That is not in my nature and system. Brothers and sisters, we are too fortunate to have such a Lord who held our hands so simply, walked us through all these difficult Vedantic, truths that he revealed in a most simple way. Love all, serve all, help ever, hurt never. Let us vibrate. Let us exist in positivity, brothers and sisters. And remember that what we release comes back to us. Let us not feel sad over what is happening. Let us feel happy that Swami came into our life and he's in our life. Right? With that, brothers and sisters, we'll end with this Samasta Loka 3 times. Om Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शांति शांति शांति। जय बोलिए भगवान श्री सत्य साईं बाबा जी की जय। Sai Ram. Sai Ram, brothers and sisters.
Sai
Once
Ram,
again,
Sai
once
Ram.
again, a small prayer. Sister Arushi's first death anniversary is today. She was with us. Let's all pray in our own mind and heart for her soul to always eternally be with Swami. Jai Sai Ram.